And you're live.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. It is officially 2017, the year ahead, the year of changes. We want to thank you and welcome aboard another broadcast of Mornings with V and CJ, where we run through the absolute gambit of news, information, all things that are pertinent and important to you. So you can follow us on at the Rogue Money. Check us out on roguemoney.net. Check out the Rogue Money Facebook page, as well as subscribe to this Rogue Money YouTube channel. Show your love and support for us as we head into the New Year's. We got challenges that are ahead, but we have all sorts of amazing things and great opportunities that I'm looking forward to coming this year of 2017. I, for one, CJ, am glad to put 2016 behind us, bro.
Absolutely. Put 2016 behind us and move with full force into 2017.
Absolutely, man. I mean, before I even start the broadcast, I like to sing "Happy Birthday to You." Happy birthday, dear Bitcoin. That's right. It's
Wow.
Bitcoin's 8th birthday today. Today is Genesis Day, the day that Bitcoin blockchain became a reality. And just want to let everybody know that. And look how far it's come, CJ. I mean, look how far it's come in 8 years, bro. It went from something that is a preposterous, crazy, out there idea to an absolute reality, a disruptor, a nightmare to the banksters and any sort of hierarchical system. You gotta love it, buddy.
Oh, it's crazy when you look at where Bitcoin is, where it's been, where it is now, and then you benchmark that against the metals. It's like, who would have known, right? Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly, man. Who would have thought that Bitcoin could have came this far? Who would have thought that Bitcoin would have had the type of run that it has? It's totally amazing, man. Totally amazing. This is like went from a concept that would never catch on. Everybody poo pooed it. I poo pooed it when it came out. Nobody paid attention to it. And then, I mean, dude, blockchain technology has changed everything, and Bitcoin has changed the game. I mean, man, I mean, this time 8 years ago, that is the day that humanity took power back on a monetary level, where we had the labor, the value of labor placed back in our hands, man, and it's totally amazing to see that, bro.
It is. And if you think of where Bitcoin is being utilized, where the central banks have failed, right? The currency is
Mhm.
collapsing, a mass hysteria regarding anything that's a viable trade, and then you see Bitcoin, and you see it out there being used, and it transcends across all borders. V, there's
Yeah.
no regulation, there's no, any of that applies to it. So it's pretty darn exciting.
Yeah, and when you look like, the biggest question going into 2017 is which way the blockchain standard. I mean, as I'm sitting here talking to you, I mean, Bitcoin right now is at 1,024, man. 1,024. Remember what Big said? Oh, before the end of the year, Bitcoin is going to be by the year's end, it's going to be $1,000. Bix kept saying it.
Yeah,
Boom,
he
we're
called
here.
it.
He called it. Hats off, hats off to Bix. Bix Weir, my man, the myth, the legend, has called Bitcoin's going to be $1,000 before year's end. Boom, we are right now sitting at 1,024. It's about at eight. It's about at 985 euros, 830 pounds. It breached over 7,000 yuan. Every record you could do. Now the question is, where are we headed? Where are we headed in 2017 with blockchain technology? As now it's I mean, think about what's happened. Think about the transition, folks. Think about the transitions that have occurred. Okay, um, in just because in the year 2016, look at what has occurred. We're going into 2017, where here we had Euroclear coming out with a blockchain based technology that's for settling gold payments. I mean, think about that, and that's to be used on an international level. That's tremendous. So things have really changed. People don't realize the absolute swing from dishonesty and corruption and graft to honesty in trade, to honesty in monetary policy, to honesty in being something that's completely straightforward and open, and move away from hierarchical systems, CJ, the trend is clearly unstoppable, man. I for once am totally and thoroughly impressed, man. Just look at the market cap, man. The market cap. I mean, Bitcoin. It began at $400. Okay, it began at $400 this year. Now it closes off at 1,000. The market cap jumped from 6 million. I'm sorry, 6 billion coins to close to 16 billion where we're at. I mean, we're approaching that market cap. It's incredible what happens in a year. And then the technology. The most attractive thing about Bitcoin is the blockchain technology. The blockchain technology being going out there and being implemented and taken to everyone, man. It's truly remarkable. I'm excited,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, it is, and we'll have to, obviously, keep our eye on China and how, a lot of folks believe that they were the ones behind the Chinese citizens, or the ones driving Bitcoin up, as the Chinese yuan, either continues to slide against the dollar, and they're buying it up to control, yeah, and who wouldn't, right? If you're holding a currency that's devaluating, why wouldn't you invest in something different?
Yeah.
But like, as far as, regardless of the Chinese, if you look at what's happening across the globe, whether it's Venezuela, Europe, I think it's going to be a very viable tool to avoid central banking, and I'm very confident, and hopefully that the regulators will stay out of the way of Bitcoin. But you start to hear about more banks wanting to do things as far as blockchain technology. But as far as the future of Bitcoin, it's here to stay.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. It is here to stay. It's the most robust, well built, a cryptocurrency that's out there. Just looking at, all cryptocurrencies have done very well this year. Monero has done well. Dash, Ethereum has done all right. Ripple is another one. Litecoin, they've all done fairly well, but Bitcoin, being the monster that it is, has done the absolute best, man. Absolute best.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
All right, man. So what's on the radar today, brother?
Not a whole lot. How was your holiday? Did you have a good New Year?
I had a great New Year's. It was, for me to close out 2016, there was two highlights. You and I were talking about it before we went on the air. That kind of clinched it for me personally. I think it kind of put the cherry on the top of the pie for you as well, bro. Number one, let's talk about that Ronda Rousey loss.
Wow.
That was a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Uh,
It was devastating. All the hype, build up around it. There were so many, gosh, in a way, I don't. I obviously Rousey, she was the fighter and everything, but I just don't think that Dana thought things out properly in terms of someone having a year off. Knowing that her defeat was so mentally just devastating on her. I just question, whether that was the right thing to do, to put her in at that time, at this particular important of a fight,
yeah.
and something. It could be career ending for her.
I think it's definitely career ending, man. When Rousey first came out, they've thrown a whole bunch of kittens at her way. And when they actually, and look, they've protected and coddled this girl. They created a media machine behind her. They did a lot of cross-platform, promotions with her. The UFC's made billions of dollars off this whole Rousey, thing. And when push came to shove, when her first loss against Holly Holm, where she had to get surgery, she was out of commission, she couldn't eat properly for months because her jaw was broken. With all of the stuff that's come out about Rousey, the fact that she's a media creator, she's something that was artificially created, and I think that was the theme for 2016. All things that were artificially created, all things that was just a bunch of hype and hoopla, folded in 2016. And Rousey being one of those things, man, having been folded, this woman has no stand up. She has a horrible boxing defense, doesn't know what the hell she's doing, gets her bell rung by Amanda Nunes, who absolutely is like the hardest hitting girl in that division. I mean, she didn't know what to do, man. It was a fitting end for Rousey, and I just, I just said to you when I was watching that fight, I texted you, I just said, hopefully she doesn't go kill herself after this, because it just goes to show, like, this is a person that, when she's entered the UFC, till about last year, everybody was gassing her head up. Everybody was telling her, "Oh, she's the greatest fighter that's ever lived. She could fight Floyd Mayweather. She could do this and she could do that. She's unbeatable. She's the hottest thing since sliced bread." And she began to believe her hype. She began to buy into her own BS, to the point where she got hit so hard, CJ, that BS kind of just made her implode. And this is the most important thing I think that we can learn as people going into 2017. You can say that you're talented. You can say you're all this, that, and a bag of chips. But the most important thing is that she's never developed a champion's mentality. That's the whole thing. Whatever hardships that a person can go through, whatever setbacks a person can go through, if you have the right mentality, the right mindset developed, you can always bounce back. Rousey, not so much, man. And then the other thing to end 2016, CJ. Oh, what was the other one, bro?
Oh my gosh. I was sitting there New Year's Eve with friends, with family, music was playing, everyone would have a great time. And, I was looking up at the Times Square ball drop, and I see Mariah Carey get up there, and she's all decked out. She has an outfit that's probably like 5 times too small for her, right?
Yep.
So, I can't really hear what's going on. It's just, the video's up in the background, but there's different music playing. And then all of a sudden, like, social media just starts blowing up, like, oh, what is going on with Mariah Carey and everything? And I didn't think anything about it until like the next day. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought maybe just people were like exaggerating a little bit, but then I went to watch it. I was like, that was beyond bad. Who in their right mind would have put her on the number one with Mariah Carey? I think her career is pretty much, kind of washed up, this big of a program. And then for her not to even know the lyrics to her songs, she obviously didn't want to sing.
Wow, that was so bad.
Yeah, so then she's like, through the performance, she says, we didn't have time to do a sound check, before this, so I'm just gonna let you guys sing the song. So the whole instrumental's going on, and they're expecting her to do the vocals, and it never happens. So the dancers, they're trying to compensate. The dancers are like, moving her around and lifting her up, and it's all about the visual thing, right? It's not about substance, it's just about the visual. It's in front of you. So then, boom, the next song comes on, and it's flowing kind of decent, right? And then it must have been either an edited version or it was intended to stop sooner than what it did. So she stopped singing during the song, and the song kept going.
It was a disaster, man.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. I don't know who's gonna book her after that, bro. It's unreal.
Yeah, and then she comes back and says that, Dick Clark, media productions or whatever, that they sabotage it. They purposely. It's like, people can't stay face to just say, listen, it was a cluster. I'm sorry, I screwed up. By the way, I won't do that again or show up.
No, exactly. No, rather than saying that, it's Dick Clark's musical production sabotage. Okay, that's something Obama would say.
There you go. Yep, exactly. I agree.
Exactly
I agree.
What it is.
The Russians hacked it. The Russians did it.
That's what it was. It was the Russians that hacked Mariah Carey's New Year's Rockin' Eve performance, and it was the Russians that helped Ronda Rousey get knocked out. That's it's all the Russians, bro. It's all their fault.
I think it was, V. I think it was.
I think you're right, man. All right, so Bitcoin, we're at a milestone. What's going on with the Japanese? With JP Morgan, bro?
Well, it's almost like they finally rolled out of bed. Like 2016 didn't happen, so here we are, 2017, and they roll out of bed for one of their big, financial outlook. Chairman of Markets and Investments comes out and says, central banks have created unprecedented distortions in government bond markets.
Wow.
Excuse me, where have you been the past several years?
No, exactly. I mean, for years and years and years, we have, as well as other outlets, have been calling about distortions in the bond market. We've been talking about, hey, you know what? There's distortions in the bond market. Everything is skewed. Mark to market has gone out the window. This is unprecedented. It's never happened this bad. We don't know what these valuations are. And all of a sudden now Michael Chambliss, the chairman of markets and investment strategy, J.P. Morgan, comes out and he says, political evils and unorthodox central bank actions persist. More of the same in 2017, of course. Single-digit returns on diversified investment portfolios as the global economic expansion bumps along for another year. Of course, the alternative is a recession call, which, considering the current expansion, will be the third longest in U.S. history by the time Trump is inaugurated in less than 3 weeks, is probably not too far-fetched. This is what he says. True believers central banks have created unprecedented distortions in government bond markets. Bond purchases, negative policy rates by the ECB and Bank of Japan led to negative government bond yields. Whatever their benefits may be, they also resulted in profit weakness and stock price underperformance of European and Japanese banks. The poor performance of the European and Japanese financials was a driver of lower relative equity returns in both regions in 2015 and 16. Now, isn't that funny, bro? Okay. One thing that I said years ago, and I actually wrote an article that if I could find it again, it was called The Mischief Engine. I began to detail that the Japanese economy, specifically the Japanese bond market and the Eurozone, okay, granted, these are two huge markets, but the primary service that these two markets served was to prop up King Dollar, okay? So in order to keep King Dollar to be the premier high-end currency that it is in the world, they had to initiate negative interest rates. Now, if you notice where negative interest rates have taken hold of in the Eurozone as well as Japan, the inverse relationship, CJ, is that we had higher bond yields. Okay, we had a higher bond yield, which today now we're seeing the higher than ever dollar index, which we've never seen at this level in such a long time. And we're seeing it based on nothing. So where's the actual fundamentals that are driving the market in the U.S. bonds and as well as the U.S. dollar? We don't see that. There's nothing really tangible behind it. No. A lot of the bond buyers are those that are seeking yields from the Eurozone market, that are seeking yields from the Japanese market. And what's the trickiest situation about this? This works so long as you have U.S. dollar recycling. You have U.S. Treasury recycling, where you have constant buyers that are able to get the U.S. treasuries bought and circulated through their systems. Now, what occurs is when you don't have a major player, i.e. like China, who's no longer playing and participating in the Ponzi scheme, you're only left with one major player, that's the Japanese. The question becomes, how long can this debt expansion continue? And that's exactly what it is. It's a debt expansion and devaluation. And one of the things that people always talk about is, the China keeps devaluing their currency. Yeah, they do. But they're devaluing because of us. We're devaluing. Okay, every time we're on quantitative easing, which hasn't stopped. Quantitative easing has not stopped, contrary to popular myth. Okay, contrary to popular ideas. Quantitative easing has not stopped. The money supply has constantly been expanding. It's been expanding through MBS. It's been expanding through the buying of U.S. Treasury bonds by the Federal Reserve. So this debt expansion has been going on. This experiment of capitalization and what is basically devaluation. Okay, everybody's devaluing. Everybody right now is on the race to the bottom. The question is, who's going to be the first engine to pop? The Chinese can go a long way, and you can see reverberations of what is occurring in the Chinese markets because of the devaluation they're doing in correlation to us. So this is a crazy thing. While we're devaluing and printing and expanding the money supply, and the artificial way, the exact inverse is occurring where, boom, we have the money supply. I'm sorry, the U.S. dollar index that is shooting through the roof. At some point, CJ, something's got to give. And I think it's going to be that Japanese bond market. Or it could be the Eurozone. Something's got to pop. But this constant expansion, man, is something to be keeping an eye on for 2017.
Absolutely. And obviously with the recent actions of Japan and negotiating with Russia, you kind of see that their whole bond market, they're what the largest now of U.S. treasuries, right? Exceeding China. So I think that they're coming to the end of that where they're saying, you know what, we got to start watching out for ourselves at some point.
Yeah, they have to, because there's no net buyers of U.S. bonds at this point. There are a bunch of net sellers. Okay, there's more net sellers than there are buyers. Japan is the last man standing. How much can they possibly absorb? I mean, look, it just came out that the Japanese central bank is the largest holder of Japanese stocks. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm thinking about their
Think of
entire,
that. Think of that.
yeah. Think of that for a second. What, close to 70% of the Japanese stock market right now is owned by the Japanese central bank because they go on a stock market buying spree. I mean, what does that tell you? Is that something that instills investor confidence? And if it does instill confidence in an investor, why should it for any sort of long term? So anybody who's playing in the Japanese and the Tokyo Stock Exchange, okay, anybody playing in the Tokyo Stock Exchange, they're not playing long term. Okay, they are rifling short term for short term yields. Everybody's yield hunting in a world of devaluation, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, and it's incredible to see it. I mean, we can see chart after chart after chart. There's no confidence here. It is a confidence game. Nobody has long term confidence. Somebody said go invest in the stock market. That's 70% of which is owned by your central bank. 70% of which is reliant upon your central bank buying and selling. The other percentage is reliant upon basically graphs where companies are buying and selling their own stock. Okay, stock buybacks, which are up 400%, by the way. If that is the market, if that's what you call a stock exchange, who the hell wants to partake long term? Nobody would, CJ. Nobody really would. Nobody with a brain would.
No, and who's to say what the dollar amount that the U.S. is pouring into our stock market, right? I mean,
Oh
who
man.
knows what that amount is, or companies buying back their own stock. So if you compound that with the companies purchasing their own stock back to inflate their price, along with the Fed, who knows what the actual market is?
You know, that's exactly the point. It's with you know with the market being the way that it is, and with all the distortions that are in the market, you can't do a proper valuation. I mean, margin debt is up, I think 600%. You know, don't quote me on those numbers, but it's an astronomical, like it's in the hundreds. I think it's 600% margin debt. Okay, that's basically brokers, you know, trading on margin. Okay, everybody's borrowing. Everybody's borrowing, from Paul to pay Peter. It's unbelievable. And you know, when you have margin debt up that high, when you have stock buybacks, which are I think it's up 400%. When you have stock buybacks up that high, we have margin debt up 600%. You have all these things that it doesn't make any sense, and then and the market is gonna run. That's why it's like this is the year of Dow 29,000. You know, we're going to see 29,000. And you know what? The smart traders are in there. They're going to make a killing. Those that are in index funds are going to make a killing. You know, there's always a silver lining with everything. There's a good side of things and a negative side of things. You just got to be smart about it. You know.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. The next thing is I put this out. It was a very interesting article because it ties right back in, especially with 2017, as there's been so many pledges to repeal or completely replace Obamacare. So I put a very interesting article out there. It's called "U.S. Healthcare is a Global Outlier and Not in a Good Way." And this article perfectly maps out how large of the as far as the sections in the U.S. as far as how large of an expense that healthcare is. When you look at the chart, it shows that in the early 90s that U.S. spent on healthcare was about 13% of GDP. And then if you fast forward to where we are today, that amount has exceeded, is up in essence of 17.5% of GDP. So the healthcare industry, and this has got to get under control. So we're spending now on average close to $10,000 per person on healthcare. And the other thing that you factor in is that when you look at quality of health in terms of the average life expectancy, we fare far worse than most industrialized nations. So we spend tons more on it, and then the life expectancy of everyone else is greater than where we are. This is huge, and this is something that has got, think of this way as well, that in terms of like disposable income, people can't afford to get sick fee. One occurrence of something happening and boom, and not only that, you talk about your premiums that people are paying. I mean, it's just skyrocketing out of control. This has got to be fixed. You see that amazing chart right there? the
Yeah,
Ketamat.
yeah, man. I'm looking at it right now. It is healthcare in this country is a gigantic cluster. You know what? An absolutely smoldering pile of poop. And to be quite honest with you, man, it's something has to get done. The whole system's got to get revamped. The answer is for the free market to do its thing. The answer is to get rid of these artificially laid out state boundaries where one insurance company could work and operate in the state, but another one can't, and all this type of nonsense. The whole system's got to get redone. You see, the insurance companies, these healthcare companies, they followed the same bureaucratic, parasitic model of every sort of other cartel-like system that's in this country. That's why people say, "Hey, we got capitalism." I was like, "No, to be more correct, we don't have capitalism. We have cartelism. That's what we have. Every sector you look, healthcare. It's like four or five companies that run everything. Media, four or five companies that run everything. Military industrial complex, four or five companies that run everything. Technology, four or five companies that run everything. Everywhere you look, it's a bloody cartel. The automotive companies, like three companies, four companies that run everything. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous at this point, man. Unless we open up the markets for competition, and have Trump overhaul this whole damn megalith of insanity.
Yeah, there's been
17% is ridiculous.
it is, and there's been exactly what you just said. This has forced the companies into consolidation now, where you have Anthem that's wanting to merge with Cigna. I think they're wanting to merge with another company. They're creating these super companies that are at some point going to be able to say, well, we control the market. We'll be able to decide what we want. But yeah, get rid of the artificial lines with insurance. Deregulate that entire industry to bring more players into the market. And I think it would be very dangerous at this point to come in and really just completely repeal Obamacare. I think it's going to have to be structurally done over the next several years to say, well, we're going to keep this piece of it. I mean, it would be very detrimental to the U.S. healthcare industry and individuals to come in and change everything right now. Companies have got so much invested in it. And trust me, I know it's broken. I'm just saying that it has to be changed and modified responsibly.
1,000%, man. It's one thing if we're spending close to 20% of GDP and we're getting like the most incredible healthcare plan known to mankind. And that's simply not the case, man. We're getting one of the worst. I mean, our life expectancy has completely flatlined. Every other major industrialized country, man, has crossed the threshold. They've crossed the threshold of living over 80 years on average, when you got Chileans and South Koreans and Grecians, okay, that are living longer than we are, and they're spending a fraction of what we're spending GDP on healthcare, something seriously wrong. I think in 2017, there's got to be a reevaluation, not only of who we are as a country, but as we are as individuals. There has to be there's got to be some sort of a health. And everybody makes resolutions. Hey, I'm gonna get in shape for the new year, but it needs to be shouldn't be like a resolution. It should be like a choice, man. It's unreal, bro. It's got to change. It's got to get done. But
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I was muted there. Yeah. So, yeah, and then V, there's also just south of our border, there's a little bit of trouble stemming down there in Mexico as well here recently, with the government changing around some of their mandates regarding gasoline. They've been rioting and blockading gas lines and everything. The government there is trying to find a way of getting it. They state that it's trying to get back to more of a free market system. So they went ahead and they instituted a price increase. The finance minister Tuesday announced that the price of gasoline would increase as much as 20.1% to 88 cents per liter. So that's basically almost 4 liters a gallon. So
yeah.
so basically gas prices have skyrocketed in Mexico, and they're basically just blockading gas stations. The nationalist candidate, the opposing in Mexico, is starting to gain a lot of popularity.
Yep.
But this is not going very well for them at all.
No, not at all. It just shows the world time and time again the greatest lesson in 2016, and we're going to start seeing more of it in 2017, folks. Is that government is the problem. When government starts to start meddling with markets, when government starts stepping in and saying, "Hey, you know what? The price of this is this," and they start, picking winners and losers on what's supposed to be a free market economics, then you have such situations as what's going on in Mexico with the gas lines. You have the same situations with food pricing in Venezuela. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, CJ. I don't know when. Okay, people are going to wake up and understand that government is the problem. Government's only responsibility should be defense and handing out park benches. That's it. And this is again a clear indicator as to why. Okay, uh, I hope I forgot the guy's name, the guy who's the nationalist, who's like their Donald Trump, who's running in Mexico. I hope that guy wins, man, because that country needs a shakeup. That country's been the globalist, experimenting, petri dish for quite a while, man. I mean, Mexico is a very, very wealthy country resource wise, man. I think they per capita they got more billionaires than we do at this point. But yet you see the people how impoverished they are. It's got to stop, man.
Yeah, yeah. So, with the price increases, and then obviously, with the whole peso, losing its value, considerably, and it continues to slide, there's going to be a lot of turmoil in Mexico, and you very well could see a nationalist movement coming in as a result of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we're seeing. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me because nationalistic movements are probably the biggest highlight towards the end of this year, CJ. Everywhere we look, bro. Everywhere we look, it seems to be a national uprising, as in some form somewhere. It's truly exciting to see it. Really remarkable, man. Really remarkable. I never thought I would see anything like it, bro.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. The Mexican government really hasn't done anything at all to really stop the drug trafficking trade, and it's a matter of corruption there, where the government is in cahoots with everything, and that's continues to be exposed. And so now you have this happening. I mean, people can only take so much, and to state that one morning you're going to come out and gas prices are 25% higher,
It's nuts.
that
It's like that idiot Prime Minister Modi in India with his mandates, playing Mr. Demagogue. It's terrible, man. Absolutely terrible. And you know what? It's people are waking up, and these demagogues destroy economies, man. They really do, especially when they don't know what they're doing. They have no clue as to how even economics works, but they're out there being a demagogue. Ridiculous, bro. Absolutely
right,
ridiculous.
right. And then, like you alluded to earlier, as far as Venezuela, a lot of people are wondering about this huge bond sale that just occurred, or Venezuela, they issued a 5 billion in debt to itself, with China as an underwriter. So how do you have no money and issue 5 billion in debt to yourself? Just unreal. And again, it's dollar denominated notes, which they'll be trying to utilize to try to patch up. But Venezuela is just like on fire right now, right? So where's this money coming from? What's it resulting in? It's really not going to put a whole lot of more cash to their people. It just kind of doesn't really make any sense of why they're doing this.
Man, it's Venezuela. Man, some would say that Venezuela is, following the Keynesian principles of economics. I would go so far as they're beyond Keynesian at this point, man. The type of insane, retarded policies that they're initiating is something you'd see from a Paul Krugman. Okay, it's something you would see from Mr. Cat Piss himself, Paul Krugman, the New York Times editorial writer on economics. It would be something that you'd see from him. I mean, how the hell do you issue 5 billion in debt to yourself? It's unbelievable, and this shows you the madness of Nicolas Maduro and his administration. The guy is an absolute modern day Nero. This guy is, he's dancing the bachata while his country is literally burning to the ground, CJ. And the Venezuelans, Like, what in God's name are wrong with you guys? Rather than overthrowing this moron called Maduro, aka Nicholas the Sweetness Maduro, the bus driver from Caracas, right? Instead of overthrowing him, you guys are keeping him in power. Instead of getting rid of him, your women have decided the best way to deal with an economic crisis is to go out and get sterilized, right? It's unbelievable, bro. They are doing everything but getting rid of Maduro. They're doing everything but getting rid of the insane governmental policies that are occurring in Venezuela that's creating the problems. Rather than looking at, hey, maybe government meddling in our lives is not a good thing, but in their pain, CJ, in their suffering, they are still looking for the government to take care of them. They're still looking for the government to be the solution of what they need. It kind of reminded of when Hurricane Sandy blew through New York, man, and people had like a wake up call. Hey, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should be more prepared for natural disasters. Maybe we shouldn't look for government for help. And we also the news clip of this woman from, I think, somewhere in Long Island or near Jersey. We want the government to help us. Please send somebody to help us. No, nobody's going to help you. Okay, government is the worst parasitic drain on a nation and on an economy. Number one. Number two, these guys never move fast enough. That's why the whole theory of martial law everywhere, blah blah blah, doesn't fit. These guys couldn't organize water, okay, to be delivered to people that are in need at a correct time. That's how incompetent government is. Then all of a sudden they're going to coordinate martial law. Give me a break. They can't coordinate anything, CJ. And this is exactly the problem that we're running into, worldwide with government. And we're going to see more of it in this year, in 2017, as more and more governments throughout the world collapse.
Yeah, yes, the wheels are falling off in Venezuela, and they just don't get it. I mean, you're going to issue out $5 more billion in debt and then try to hopefully sell that on the market for what, $1 billion or $2 billion. So who knows what China's getting? Is China getting rights to all their oil? Is China buying their oil at a severely discounted price? Who knows?
Exactly. The Chinese are getting infrastructure in return. They're getting an infrastructure deal. They're getting a resource deal in return. Nobody wants Venezuelan debt. It's you might as well buy Greek bonds. I would rather buy Greek bonds than Venezuelan debt, man. I wouldn't buy Venezuelan bonds. So, of course, yeah, China's definitely getting something out of the deal. It's only a matter of time before we find out what the heck it really is, man.
Exactly.
What are they getting out of it? It's only a matter of time before we, figure it out. But absolute insane policies, and it only makes sense in the mind of a socialist idiot like Nicolas Maduro. Can you imagine, man? Like, we're in an economic crisis, and the first thing people think about, I'm gonna go and get sterilized. I'm gonna go and beg the government for toilet paper. I mean, these people don't have toilet paper. I guess it also works out fine because now they have a food crisis, so they don't have to worry about toilet paper because nobody's eating anything. Unreal, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure if you saw this article or not, B, but and again, I think there's a lot to be. There's some conspiracy people out there going to say, oh yeah, this is gonna leave a gap. There's maybe they're preparing for some event or something to happen, but for the first time, no U.S. carrier is at sea, and that's anywhere. So it's kind of interesting. Everything's coming home right now. Is it because of the transition? Is it what's kind of driving all that? Well, obviously the whole Syria thing is lost, right? That's turned down. We have no part in that negotiation at all. So who knows what this is amounting to?
I mean, I think when you look at these carrier schedules, I mean, some people are like, this is the first time that there's no aircraft carrier anywhere in the Gulf of in the Persian Gulf. It's the first time ever there's no carriers in the Middle East. Now, there's been many times where there's no carriers in the Middle East. It's just the way it works out. Carrier fleets are always rotated. They're coming in for retrofits. They're coming in after their long, many month tours. It's a wide variety of reason. It's another thing if we say, hey, there's no U.S. surface ships that are in the region, but that's not the case. There are surface ships. There are destroyers and cruisers that are still floating around the Persian Gulf. we just don't have an aircraft carrier battle group. There's no need for one to be there right now. There's really no missions to fly for an aircraft carrier battle group, in that area. Because look, when you look at the Middle East, we have some Air Force bases that are close by that are just a hop, skip, and jump away from the Middle East. I mean, we found that out during the whole Benghazi thing that, hey, you know what? We had a bunch of Air Force bases in Italy that were told to stand down. We have, other Air Force bases in Qatar, in Bahrain. I'm sorry, not Bahrain, but we're in Qatar, we're in Saudi Arabia, we have so many bases in the Middle East, man.
Oh
It
my
doesn't
gosh.
really matter,
Yeah.
if the aircraft carrier comes in for fueling. No, it's not a staging for anything else. It's just business as usual. These carrier schedules are done in a year or so in advance, so it's just routine, man. I wouldn't put too much weight into it. A lot of people want to read into it more than anything else, but no, it's routine.
Very cool, very cool. Any thoughts on what you saw where the Netanyahu was brought in by the Israeli police and interrogated, overseeing? What's driving that, V? What are your thoughts on that?
It's very interesting. There's a political struggle over there in Israel. There's going to be some serious scandals erupting with Netanyahu, and when this occurred, I was really surprised, to say the least. Clearly politically motivated. Will they get anything out of Netanyahu? I'm not sure. What they're trying to do is basically remove this guy from office. How that will fare going into the new year, when we're facing a complete new world that's being reordered, is going to be quite, it could be anybody's guess as to see what will happen. This is, again, Netanyahu even, I think he even tweeted out, don't get too happy about the scandal, and he's right. Don't get too happy. Let's see how things play out. But I, for one, am no fan of Netanyahu. I think he's old hat, and I think if Israel wants to survive and be a player in the reordered Middle East, the best thing to happen is to get somebody else. This old guard of these individuals who are just warmongers, who are following the backwards, ridiculous policy of the British, which is bomb everything, perpetual war, perpetual this, and perpetual debt. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Hasn't worked anywhere in the world, and we're seeing the fruits of such an assault of this ridiculous concept, CJ. So I would like to see Netanyahu gone or step down. I don't know if they'll find anything though, bro. I mean, what's your take? Have you got a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the timing of it, obviously it's kind of odd that we have this whole UN resolution. What's the driving force about it? I think barely was reelected this past year. Is it underlying of a political dissent that's not happy with him being there? He was under investigation. Also previously in regards to whenever he was a defense ministry regarding a deal to purchase submarines as well, which nothing happened from that. And now we have the situation where, basically he was accused of accepting €1 million in regards to a previous position that he held. So I don't know. Are these people specifically taking him? I was worried about what's the next person coming in.
Yeah.
And that's something I haven't researched, is that, are we dealing with a situation where we'd much rather be dealing with a Netanyahu versus the next person waiting in line that could be more aligned with the globalist or some other type of event taking place in Israel? But yeah, I mean, the timing of it's was just kind of odd to me.
I mean, I agree with you, and Netanyahu being the Netanyahu that he is, at the end of the day, the guy is he's a patriot for Israel. Okay, he, for one, is not going to be selling Israel down the river. If he's removed, who's going to be taking his spot? Will it be a globalist stooge that's completely a sold-out globalist stooge that's willing to, initiate the Samsung protocol where, they can trigger some sort of a major event or war or whatnot in the Middle East? Or is it going to be someone who's going to go along and get along with this complete reordering of the world? I, for one, CJ, like to deal with the devil that I know versus the devil that I don't know,
Yeah, exactly. Well said. Well said. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. And then also, let's talk a little bit around our favorite city, the city of Chicago.
Oh yeah, Chirac, baby.
I mean, just unreal when you look at 2016 was one of the deadliest years in decades for Chicago. There were 762 murders, 3,550 shootings, and 4,331 shooting victims in 2016. Unreal.
You know what, man? This is the third largest city in the United States after New York and LA. And there's a common theme here. Okay, everywhere you go, you find a common theme. When you see crime statistics the way that they are, there's a common theme. That common theme is called Democrats and single mothers. That is a common theme. Democrats, wherever these Democrats go, this is what happens. Okay, you have insane, situations like what we're seeing in Chicago. It's terrible, and it's always going to be the way it is until like Chicago gets has the cojones to elect a mayor, kind of like Rudy Giuliani, who'll go in there and start cleaning it up. Now people are Giuliani, this, that, and the other. Look, at the end of the day, the guy, what he's done in New York, and any real New Yorker will tell you, okay. And granted, nothing's 100% perfect, and there's always going to be some little bit of issues. But in terms of raw numbers, in terms of crime rates plummeting, in terms of reinvestment coming back into the city, man, Rudy's model works. Okay, it worked very, very well. And I think, man, unless something like that, I think something similar like that occurs in Chicago, we're going to see the same thing, man. I mean, they have the highest, strictest gun laws one of the strictest gun laws in the country, bro. And this is what happens, man. You got more and more people getting killed out there in Chicago. Ridiculous, AJ. Absolutely ridiculous.
And it's
no reason for it.
No, and it's not, Obama went on and said, "Oh yeah, it's a result of the guns coming from Indiana and Michigan." But no, when you look at the amount of just homicides that are there, and then you look at the murder rate, I mean, it's just crazy. And in those particular areas, as Rahm Emanuel, the great governor, he has not done anything to. It's gotten worse since he's been in office.
Of course,
put him on blast and said, "Hey, look, Chicago's got to do something. You can't keep running numbers like that. That's just ridiculous."
No, you can't. It's a war zone. It's an absolute war zone. And when he came to visit Trump back on December the 7th, he met with Trump. What was he discussing? Instead of discussing Chicago's criminal problem, the fact that they have all this ridiculous shootings and all the things that are going down in Chicago, rather than discussing that, he was discussing illegal immigration, CJ.
Yeah.
Illegal immigration was the thing that he was discussing. Absolutely bananas, man.
Yeah, just disconnected that he, in fact, that he wasn't going to allow, people to be deported. Well, obviously this could be the end result when you allow, criminals to continue to be on the streets and do absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, exactly correct, man. It's unreal. Absolutely unreal, man. But then you have really good article here. I think it was from the Activist Post. Gang members implicate U.S. government in dumping crates of guns in Chicago. Oh man.
Yeah. So
what's going on with that?
Well, this is just kind of interesting. The whole story regarding, LA with the Crips and the Bloods, and
yeah, man,
the whole story around that the CIA may have worked to put drugs on the streets and leave those alone and do all that. It was kind of interesting that, and this was over a year ago, that again, whether this is true or not, but if you think of the gun running in Mexico, and the reason why I posted this is because you heard that Obama continues to try to push for that UN gun resolution and force that on Americans. But there were some gang members that came out during the late 90s and early 2000s, that were basically claiming that at one point, like whenever they would like in the mornings, early mornings, they would go out and they would find like ammo dumps, like crates of guns, like high powered weapons, not just handguns and things like that. And these were guns that you could not buy on the streets. Now there's no way that this could be validated whether this happened or not, but what probably better of a city to try to, kind of do the same thing they did the gun running in Mexico, other than, Obama Chicago to put guns on the streets in those particular areas to try to force an agenda.
Oh, absolutely, man. 1000%. I mean, you know, this whole thing of dumping guns into Chicago was explicitly designed for these idiots thinking that it'll create enough violence, enough uproar that it would cause people to demand for, gun control. Well, these globalists are still working with these outdated and obsolete ideas and policies. They're trying to promote, they're trying to do that whole Hegelian dialectic, CJ, the problem reaction solution. But their problem reaction solution is not quite working. Their problem reaction solution is causing the exact problem or the exact solution that they don't want. People are, because of the gun violence in Chicago, law abiding citizens are starting to see the need for guns and are demanding, less stricter gun laws. Those are the ones with sense. Now, those that are that are continuing want even tighter gun control, thinking that's going to solve the problem. They're, the smart individuals are leaving Chicago. They're leaving cities like Chicago, like they're leaving, places like California. Speaking of California, did you hear about that law they passed to make child prostitution legal?
Yeah, well, I did see it. I didn't read the entire thing, but that's just insane. I mean, are they using it to hopefully subsidize the pitfalls of all the California pensions, or what? I mean,
Man, I don't know what it is, but they've just given a major incentive for pimps to start going after little kids, little girls and little boys, and bringing them into California because now there's no there's really nothing that's holding them back. There's no detrimental or punishment. There's no consequence, man. Now for them to do this, this is insane. It could only come from a despotic, putrid, sewage-filled mind of a libtard. And I think the libtard that passed it was some woman. I forgot what her name was. She was the one who concocted the bill, and it passed in California. Like, what are these people thinking? Like, people with brains in California, please, please, either you take that state back or you leave. I'm still amazed. I got friends that live out there in Cali. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I really don't know. I couldn't do it, CJ. I couldn't do it, bro.
yeah, and they state that autism was on its rise with their forced vaccinations, to attend, public school. It's now mandated, even though they had thousands and thousands protest that. So you got to look at California and the amount of businesses and people that are leaving the state and the future of it. Just insane that they would pass something like that. I'll definitely have to read into it.
It just shows you the toilet bowl brain and mindset of those that are in Cali, man. Absolutely insane, man.
Right. Well, I think they kind of fit in with the federal government, right? That, oh, there was a Vermont hack at a utility company,
Oh,
and
jeez.
it was definitely the Russians. The Russians hacked the electric. They're going to bring the whole power grid down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jeff Bezos' blog, aka Washington Post, putting out fake news. Again, the purveyors of fake news, putting out fake news. Putting it out saying that there was a hack at a it was a Russian hack, it was a laptop, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. And lo and behold, it was just malware on some company on some employee's laptop. It goes such a long way to show you exactly how dumb and idiotic these fools are. They don't check their sources. They don't do anything whatsoever. They want to push a narrative. They want to push an absolute agenda, and it's funny, man, because the rest of the world sees it. The rest of the country is what has really woken up to what's going on, with the with mainstream media. And I said this first, man. This whole thing with fake news, it would have worked maybe 15 years ago. It would have worked maybe 15 years ago, CJ, and it would have worked if there were some sort of totalitarian, country. If we were some sort of totalitarian country like North Korea, but the fact that we're not, it makes no sense, bro. It makes no sense whatsoever. That the fact that we're not one of these totalitarian countries and they'd come out with this all fake news bullcrap. Now they're the ones getting pegged with it. It's hilarious to watch it. They are being stuck with the label they created, bro.
Yeah, and again, for example, the whole thing with the Russians hacking the elections and everything, and Podesta's email, it was very interesting. There's a great article up on RogueMoney.net by James, the Russian analyst, that kind of details out that Julian Assange actually went on to Sean Hannity's show and said that it was not the Russians that provided that information to us. So Julian Assange has gone on records to say that that it was not the Russians that provided the emails. It was more than likely someone on the Democratic Party or perhaps someone in NSA that leaked this stuff. I mean, you look at the amount of emails that came forward that were there. They had to have access to whole servers. That wasn't just someone had access to an email account. Someone had access to a large spectrum of data that was there to be able to provide that to WikiLeaks.
Exactly, man. And how many times has Assange come out and said that hey, this is not some Russian hack. This was not something that was given to us by Russians. This was something given to us by DNC staffers. The kind of staffers that mysteriously just dropped dead after filing a lawsuit against the Democratic Party. The type of staffer that all of a sudden gets shot dead in an attempted robbery, but nothing was taken in the middle of Washington, D.C. At 4 a.m. in the morning. Those are the types of staffers who are out there leaking these stories, CJ, that that WikiLeaks has said so many times, hey, this is where we're getting our stuff from. And the mainstream media thinks the American public is so dumb. They're still toting this whole Russian hack narrative. And they're about to have egg on their faces, bro. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And then how many times
does Trump have some sort of an announcement either today or tomorrow about this Russian hacking
He
stuff?
does. I believe it's scheduled for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah, I think it's scheduled for tomorrow that he unveiled and said, I have some information that I'll release at the right time. So it'll be very interesting to see what he says. And then what's crazy to me also is they try to give this information regarding a Russian hack that Assange comes out and says, well, it's kind of funny. They think it's the Russians because at this point, no one from the FBI or no one from the U.S. government has contacted WikiLeaks to even try to ask us any information. So they have no idea. They have no idea.
Exactly. But it just fits. And nobody buys O'Dumbo. Here's O'Dumbo, who's right now just pouring gasoline on everything before he leaves office. I mean, unbelievable. This is good riddance. Good riddance, globalists. You guys end 2016 as a bunch of whiny crybabies and a bunch of saboteurs, which you guys are.
What are we, 17 days out? Are we 17 days out now? Is that
17 days out till the end of Skidmark.
Whew. Good riddance.
Good riddance indeed, man. Good riddance indeed. And that brings us to the end of our inaugural 2017 broadcast, CJ. Say your closing comments, man.
Yeah, hey, thank you for bringing Happy New Year's to everyone. Very excited about 2017. Seen a couple of posts, and I appreciate all the birthday wishes and Merry Christmas. So thank you for all those that posted that. Just to make sure that, again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to do that. More importantly, check out RogueMoney.net. There's 2 or 3 new articles that some of the contributors put together the last couple of days. So some hard-hitting stuff there, so go check it out.
Absolutely. CJ, it was your birthday, bro.
Back on the 23rd, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
We had it. You're saying happy birthday on the 22nd. Okay. Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
I remember. All right, cool. I got sidetracked for a second. Like, did I miss something? I'm still recovering from my New Year's. Just tired. I'm, I don't get drunk or anything. That's not my vice. Anyway, Anyway, guys, check it out. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for helping make 2016 a very successful year for us and the entire team at Rogue Money. Please subscribe to this channel and follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money, and check us out on Facebook. And that's it. Apart from that, have an awesome day. Aloha snack bar to all of you guys. And this is V the Gorilla and my man, the Uncanny CJ. We are over and we are